Stefan Noesen had a big impact on the Devils, both on and off the ice. Let's reflect on his 2024-2025 season. There's a lot to break down in today's episode of Locked On Devils. Buckle up, everybody.
You're Locked On Devils, your daily podcast on the New Jersey Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi, this is Bryce Salvador, and you're Locked On Devils with Trey Matthews.
Scores! Oh, Steven stepped up, nailed it. Brodor's got the puck. What a shot. The Devils win the Stanley Cup.
Alrighty now, what is up, New Jersey? Welcome back to the Locked On Devils podcast here at the Locked On Network. I'm your host, College Hockey Play announcer, Devils Wire Pucks Pitchforks, and also part-time credential media member, Trey Matthews. Happy first few days of June. First day of summer is right around the corner, which means the kiddos will be out of school. That's either good if you are a kid or bad if you're a parent. All jokes aside, Stanley Cup final right around the corner. Then the draft will be right around the corner. And before you know it, the floodgates are going to open July 1st. But for the time being, while we're at a slower part of the offseason, let's continue to talk about New Jersey Devils players and their 2024-2025 season. Next on the docket is one of my personal favorite players, Stefan Noesen. Now, here's the thing about Noesen. I actually did an interview with his wife, Allison, a few weeks back. If you've not checked out that episode, please pause this one and do so. Allison gave a lot of great insight, the life of a hockey wag. Also, fun fact, Allison and I have known each other since 2011. We used to work together at a college in Detroit. It's always great to catch up with someone and have our paths connect in the weirdest way. But anyway, let's talk about her husband, Stefan. In the first segment, we will look back at Noesen's 2024-2025 season from a statistical standpoint. You will also hear from Noesen as I had the chance to speak with him during exit interviews. Then in the second segment, we will talk about some things that I would like to see Noesen work on come next season. Like I said, one of my favorite players on the Devils, great guy to talk to. Just some things I noticed from an optic standpoint. Then in the third and final segment, something that Noesen has brought into the locker room is his leadership. He's a veteran player. He's been around the block before. He's experienced the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, going from team to team to team, spending time in the AHL, coming back from injury. I talked about it with his wife a few weeks ago. It's one of the reasons why I love Noesen so much, because I think he's the epitome of hard work and determination, taking someone so far in their careers if they put their mind to it. All right, let's look back at Noesen's season. He appeared in 78 games. He had 22 goals, fourth on the team. That was also a career high for him. 19 assists, seventh on the team, for a grand total of 41 points, sixth on the team, also a career high. He had 152 hits. That ranked third on the team. He was a huge catalyst on the power play. He had 11 power play goals, second on the team, just behind Nico Hischier. I think a lot of people need to talk more about that, because Noesen was one of the reasons why the Devils' power play was so dangerous. Now, it got negated during the playoffs, but that's neither here or there. He had an offensive point share rating of 2.8, seventh on the team, a defensive point share rating of 1.5, 12th on the team, giving him a point share rating of 4.3, ninth on the team. He had an expected goals for rating of 45.7, 11th on the team. I had the chance to ask Noesen about his season, his contributions, his impact, all that. He went into great detail and even talked about his family, which I found very moving. Take a listen.
Nace, you had a career high in points, goals. You were a catalyst on the power play. From a personal standpoint, how would you gauge your second tenure here in New Jersey?
Started off great. There's no doubt with that. Second half, usually I'm a second half guy, and just couldn't Couldn't quite get the things that were rolling for me early going there, but my game is all, I wouldn't say all about balances, but for a lot of where I live and breathe is at the net, and sometimes they don't rebound your way. They don't I don't think I've had one end-to-end rush goal my whole entire career, and probably never will. And I'm fine with that. If you expected that, that's kind of on you. But overall, it was great. I thought, coming in here, I really wasn't sure what to expect. To come in, provide leadership, provide my experiences that I've gone through, with this organization, and learning, through playing with the Hurricanes and playing down in the minors again, and that whole wild roller coaster of emotions that I went through for those couple of years, and coming back here, giving my experience, helping these guys, and it's been great. It's been fun. I try to take as much load off of like Nico and Jack as possible in terms of out of the rink, and let them focus on one thing and one thing only, and that's the hockey aspect of it. And the other big thing that people don't realize is families. Families are everything, and they're our backbone. And to be able to give the family support, and we have two guys that are big leaders on our team that they don't have families yet. They don't have the well, I guess maybe they do now, but they don't have the home life that we all have, and the veterans that got brought in to make them and make the lives of the kids feel special. The Devils have always done a fantastic job with that, and for a while there wasn't any of that here, and so kind of bringing back that into the aspect of it. And I thought myself, Dilly, Jaker, and a few other guys, Markey, really helped kind of bring that back into this room. And like I said, just trying to take as much load off of those guys as possibly can. That way they don't have to worry about it. They just show up to things and live their life and go out there and go play hockey and help us win games.
One of the reasons I love interviewing Noesen is because he goes into great detail whenever I interview him. It's just like you're having a genuine conversation. And the fact that I just talked about his season and just wanting him to reflect on his impact, he took it a few steps further, which I loved. And he talked about his family, how they're the backbone, they're the engine that drives him, and how people like him, people like Brendan Dillon, Erik Haula, Andre Palat, Curtis Lazar, Jacob Markstrom, you name it, they add a different dynamic to the team because they have kids. Nico Hischier, he doesn't have kids. Jack Hughes, he doesn't have kids. Neither of the Hughes brothers have kids. Jesper Bratt doesn't have kids. They have significant others, but Noesen talked about the importance of having a family and just bringing that sort of experience into the locker room. He even talked about it last year when we, the media, talked to him for the first time when he signed his new deal. Because just having a family at home, it can teach you a lot of lessons and you can apply it to your everyday job. I talked about it with Allison, his wife, when she appeared on this show a few weeks ago. So Noesen is just very insightful. He's very smart. He just goes into great detail, which I appreciate. And the fact that he opened up and talked about how he can help mentor some of the younger guys who don't have kids and just teach them the importance of having a family structured locker room, a family minded organization, and just be this great person that you love, you love rooting for, you love watching. I'm lost for words. Honestly, I'm running out of adjectives to describe it. I think it's very great of Noesen to do that. And trust me, it's well appreciated in the locker room. I think it's safe to say that Noesen was a pleasant surprise for a lot of people because this is his second tenure playing with the Devils. He was really good on the Hurricanes. Once free agency rolled around last year, he had more of a choice as to where he wanted to go, where he wanted to sign. And I advocated for the Devils to sign him just because I saw his impact on the Hurricanes. I saw what he did in the AHL. I said, I think he has a lot of potential, and I think the Devils could definitely use him. He's a spark plug. He adds more grit. He's physical. He's not afraid to throw his weight around. I also thought he could play a factor in the playoffs and just give the Devils a little bit more energy. Like I said, he definitely surprised a lot of people. To start the season, he was a point per game player, similar to Paul Cotter, similar to Erik Haula, but you knew that was going to die out a little bit. But I was glad that he made a big impact on the roster. This might be crazy and I could be wrong, but is it safe to say that Sheldon Keefe expected a little too much out of him? I'll talk more about that in the second segment because when he was on Hischier's line, he did see some success, but there was a point in the year in which he was struggling, similar to a lot of his teammates. But all in all, it was a pleasant reunion with Nace. He's an excellent net front presence. He's not afraid to go into the dirty areas, get those greasy goals. I think that's something that's been lacking on the Devils roster the past couple years because the Devils are a skill-based team, but you need a blue-collared player like Noesen to just clean up the garbage a little bit. So, Noesen, welcome home. Year 1 of 3. Let's see what year 2 has in store come next season. We're going to talk about some things I would like to see from Noesen come next season. But before we continue, let me tell you guys about FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. All right, the stage is set. The OKC Thunder and the Indiana Pacers. I don't think that's going to do well ratings-wise just because I think people wanted to see like either the Knicks or the Lakers make it to the finals. I know I did, but I'm going to have to pick OKC. I think it's going to be very difficult for the Pacers to beat them 4 times out of 7. Also, to add to this, I'm picking the Panthers to repeat as champions and defeat Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. New to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up and head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Okay, during exit interviews, I had the chance to ask Noesen what are some of the things he would like to work on to take his game to even greater heights come next year. Here's what he had to tell me.
You talked about your growth. What are some of the things you're going to try to improve on come next year?
Give me a week and I'll tell you that. I need a little time to just digest, to go over how the season went. What I can give you the BS cliche answer. I need to get faster, stronger, and do all that. But I need to sit down and kind of go over things and and kind of reassess where I am with that. And call me later. I'll give you an honest answer if you really want one.
Okay, here are 3 things I want to focus on. I wish Noesen would have talked about something more specific, but my boss, Nick Villano, over at Pucks and Pitchforks, wrote an interesting article about Noesen's speed. I'll leave a link in the description if you want to check it out. But he basically said that when Noesen was on the same line as Nico Hischier, unfortunately, Noesen is not really fast himself. He even talked about in the first segment, he's never going to have an end-to-end type of goal. And he even said, if you expected that out of him, then that's on you. He's okay with that. His bread and butter is being a net front presence and getting those greasy goals. And he's one of the best in the game to do that. Sometimes it is difficult for him to catch up to them. That's one of the things that people took notice. But if Tyler Toffoli proved anything, you don't have to be the fastest player to gel with your line mates because Toffoli was slow himself. He was a little older. He didn't have the speed that Jack had, that Jesper had, that Nico had, but he was very smart. He knew where to position himself. And Noesen even talked about it in the first segment as well. Sometimes the rebounds just don't come your way, and he's not able to really do what he's good at doing. And I think it's one of the reasons why he struggled at some point during the season, because he was still good on the power play, but it took him a while to get another 5-on-5 goal. I would have to like look a little deeper into it, but there was a big stretch in the season where 5-on-5, Noesen sometimes struggled. But overall, I think that's something that I'm sure Noesen can work on. You do have to factor in that he is a little older compared to some of the other players, but that's something to take note of. And like I said, my boss, Nick Villano, did an excellent job highlighting that. I think something else that I talked about, similar to Erik Haula, the scoring itself has to be balanced out a little bit more. What do I mean by that? Well, when I broke down Haula's season, I said Haula got off to a very good start and he finished the season strong, I would say. But in between those periods, like from the beginning of the season to the end of the season, not really much in between. And he had a lot of zeros for not just a few days, not for a few weeks, but for a few months, from late November to early March. I did factor in Haula did miss nearly a month of the season, but that can't really happen all that much. So I think that's something I would like to see from Noesen just a little bit more too, which is, and he acknowledged it, he's usually a good second half guy, but this year he got off to a better start in the first half. But I think it starts with just having more spread out scoring throughout the course of the year. Sheldon Keefe even talked about it. So that's what I think Noesen just needs to work on a little bit more. If the power play isn't clicking, what else can you do? And I think that's something we saw during the playoffs, because the Devils were up against the best penalty killing team in the NHL, in the Hurricanes, and the Devils got stymied on the man advantage. The Devils' bottom six only produced 3 points in those 5 games. Between all 6 players on the bottom 6, 3 points in 5 games. That can't happen. But I do think that maybe the Devils asked a little too much from Erik Haula and Stefan Noesen just to defend them a little bit, because Sheldon Keefe talked about it during the playoffs. Sometimes you have to keep your expectations realistic for certain players. And I think Noesen should be a good go-to option on the bottom 6, but do you think the Devils maybe asked a little too much out of him to be put on the same line as Nico for a good chunk of the year? That's just something to consider. But make no mistake, Noesen was phenomenal this year, and I think he exceeded a lot of people's expectations. And I'm glad that he's back with the Devils. Just some constructive criticism and just something I noticed from my perspective, but I'm certainly not going to complain about his productivity for the most part, because I think he went above the call of duty. And maybe once the Devils do add more depth assets, I think Noesen can breathe a little bit more and just say, okay, now I don't have to like worry all that much about scoring, and I can focus on bringing more physicality, being a pest out in front, creating those open lanes for my teammates, and trying to take the burden off the shoulders of players like Nico and Jack, like he said during his interview. Okay, to close out today's episode, we're going to hear from some of Noesen's teammates about his impact and what he's brought to the locker room. During exit interviews, I had the chance to speak with Nico Hischier, Erik Haula, and Paul Cotter about Noesen's impact both on the rink and off the rink. Take a listen.
What can you say about Stefan Noesen and what he's brought to the team, both on the ice and in the locker room?
It's been great having him back here, Nate. I mean, obviously, I knew him when I was like 18, 19. So it's obviously great having him. Like he was able to help me a lot off the ice with setting up things and all that kind of stuff. And obviously on the ice, like he's a competitor. He's not a guy you want to play against. He's very competitive. Obviously makes big goals. does the dirty work, and it's good to have a guy like that in there.
So I think Steph is one of the better net front players that I played against, and that's where he pretty much makes his living. Fierce competitor, wants to win as well. Cares about the team a lot.
Nace is very structural. He's a very, very good net front player, which is pretty hard to come by, and just around the net, you always know where he's going to be. He's a good talker. Hey, do this, do that. Hey, try this, try that. So playing with both of them was easy. I think we meshed pretty well, and it was great playing with both of them.
I wrote an article about it for Pucks and Pitchforks. I will also leave that in the description if you want to give it a read. But Nason's impact was incredible throughout the course of the year. And I loved every second of it. And the fact that he brings that type of leadership into the locker room, trust me, it goes a long way. I'll give you a concrete example. Shortly before the Four Nations break, the Devils were in a big time slump. And when Noesen was speaking to the media post-game, he was blunt and he was honest. Amanda asked him, what's it going to take for the team to, turn it around, or, what does it come down to? Why are the Devils struggling? And he just said simply, care. And he elaborated on it a little bit more, that some players, we just got to start caring a little bit more. That's honest leadership right there that I love to hear from the locker room, and that goes a long way when you have a veteran like Nace in the locker room. And the fact that Nico also said those kind words to Noesen about what he's brought, that it's just incredible. So, yeah, Noesen has done phenomenal work, and all in all, his season was great, and I think a lot of Devils fans are appreciative as to what he's brought in his second tenure with the Devils. Let me know your thoughts about Noesen. What are your best memories of him, whether it was his first tenure with the Devils or his current tenure with the Devils? Share some memories. Share your thoughts as to what veteran players like Stefan Noesen, Brendan Dillon have brought to the Devils locker room, because I think they've made a positive impact. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment down below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening on a podcast streaming service, hit me up on my personal X page app at TreyMatt4, or the show's X page app at Locked On Devils. As for today's episode, that's all the time I have for you. Continue to stay safe. Have a wonderful day, New Jersey. Go Devils. I'll catch you guys next episode. Thanks for listening once again.